Hi, I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, child development, and education, all through the lens of the principles self-government. And in this video, we're talking about how to discipline children. In this video, we're going to talk about what real discipline means, and we're going to talk about the self-government methods that make corrections peaceful and productive. Discipline is something that's talked about in the Bible. It's been something that parents have focused on for millennia of time now, but I don't know if it's always understood. I think a lot of people think that discipline means that you stop whatever behavior is happening and that's it. It's a kind of a forceful, like controlling type of a thing, which is a heavy hand that drops down, right? That somebody has to be the heavy. I think that's the way that people think about discipline. That's not necessarily what discipline actually means. Of course, within the definition of discipline, there are things like, chastisement of something, meaning that you tell someone that's wrong, it's not the right way to do it. But actually, discipline means to be a disciple. It actually is derived from that term, which means that you follow someone. You are engaged in learning from somebody else's teaching, or you may follow the rule of law or government or whatever. So if you are a disciplined person, then that means you say, what is the rule? What is the law? And then I stick to it. Some people, some tendencies of people, like upholder tendencies, I have a whole video about that, so I'm not going to go into detail here, but there are certain tendencies like the upholder tendency of person that is just naturally disciplined. It just comes easily for them. They don't find a lot of peace and happiness without that type of discipline. But the other tendencies of people, they struggle to be more disciplined and they have to tell themselves to do it on a regular basis. So I am a big fan of discipline, but I want us to understand that discipline is not aggressive. It is not yelling. It is not threatening. It is not power struggling. When you are disciplining someone, you should hopefully be disciplined yourself. So I think in terms of correction. I call the corrections at Teaching Self-Government corrective teachings because they're teaching moments. In fact, we often phrase those teaching moments as practices. Let's practice doing this the right way so that we can get to a place of improvement, but it doesn't have to feel like a personal attack. Now, that doesn't mean that a person couldn't take even a very gentle, calm, discipline moment or corrective teaching practice moment as a personal attack, because some people could. There are some people who are perfectionistic type people, and they oftentimes will be hard on themselves or assume that if they hear anything that is contrary to what they did or what they thought, that they are being attacked. That's just being overly sensitive. They have to learn how to accept correction and criticism just like anybody else. And these are skills that are learned. They are self-government skills that are learned. So in a lot of my videos, I talk about the 4 basic skills of self-government. I sometimes even share some of the steps associated with those skills. I'm not going to go into that right now, except for to just say that unless a person gets the opportunity to do skill 3, which is to accept consequences or accept corrections, that person will not learn self-government. Because when a person learns self-government, they understand the cause and effect of any given situation and possess a knowledge of their own behavior so that they can control them, which means that they are in a state of steady analysis. So what does discipline really mean? Discipline means you teach somebody the law. You establish ahead of time, this is what the law is. This is the principles that we are following. These are the skills that we are going to use. This is the government structure that's going to be in place. And then you tell them, and if we don't follow that, then this is how we will correct it. This is what consequences will be. It's the same process of creating law on a governmental scale, right? Like a national or a state level scale, or even in a municipality. What do? They establish the law. They establish the consequences. They say, this is how we will engage with you. If you break the law, we're not planning on going out of control in any way. If you go out of control, we will handle it like this. I mean, that's basically what it is. And we do the same thing within our family structures. I wonder if our government structures were patterned after what an effective family structure would be. I kind of feel like that might be the case. Anyway, so we can now, if we're having a hard time with our family structure, go back to that government structure and say, let's do it that way. Now, I know there's problems in government. We won't get into that, but the way that it's supposed to be set up is actually a good model to follow. So let's talk about how to do corrections. If you've already subscribed to this channel, you know that I believe in calmness. I teach about calmness, peaceful communication and problem solving, as well as productive communication and problem solving, which means that we actually solve our problem. And we are able to do it in a way that builds a person up instead of tears a person down. It gives them something to use for the future. That doesn't mean that every child that's corrected is going to be like, yay, I'm getting corrected, because that may not happen, okay? Especially at first, when they're used to power struggling against you, they may try to do that at the beginning anyway. But over time, they realize corrections are totally safe. Home is the safest place to make a mistake. My parents don't get angry at me. It's the same way every time. It's completely predictable. And so I don't have anything to worry about. So how do you make it completely predictable? That's what I'd like to talk about. So if you have been on my website, which is teachingselfgovernment.com, if you've seen my course, which is the TSG parenting course on that website, then you know that there is a full structure that is put in place for how to teach the children, bond with the children better, help them solve their own problems, but also how to correct them when it's necessary. And then, of course, don't forget self-regulation. So how to help them be more self-regulated as they need that as well. So what are some of the key pieces? Well, first you have to prepare everybody for success. So we have to establish a vision of what we're hoping to accomplish and why. And we have to establish what principles we're hoping to follow in order to meet that goal that we plan for ourselves in that family vision. So you get everybody on the same page. You strengthen the relationships, improve the bonding, then do the teaching of the skills. So there's the 4 basic skills, there's the 5 teaching styles, there's skills of self-regulation, and other skills that you might need to solve other isolated problems that you could identify with your self-government skills that are taught to you in that course. Then you have regular meetings where you catch up as a family and you talk about family priorities, the things you're trying to handle, as well as how to solve the problems that you see occurring in the family. So you might come up with how to solve it when people don't take their dish over after dinner, or when people are arguing over things. How do we solve that as a family? What skills do we have? What do we need to remember? Do we need to practice any of them? And what are the negative consequences going to be? And then during these family meetings, which are like councils that the family has together, then the family comes up with negative consequences for how to handle these situations, and the family all votes on it. So they know fully that they've been part of the decision-making process, even if they didn't get the decision to go their own way. So there are a couple of key things that you need to understand as part of disciplining your children. First, decide your consequences ahead of time. That doesn't mean that you need to minutely decide, okay, if they don't clean the bathroom, then they'll have to dust the banister. No, it's not like that. It's if they don't follow instructions, which is one of our 4 basic skills, if they don't follow instructions, like one of those steps of following instructions, let's say they don't keep a calm face when you give them an instruction, then you need to correct them. What is the consequence going to be? It's going to be the same thing every time for not following instructions or doing any of the 4 basic skills. It's going to be that they earn an extra chore. So then what are you going to use for the extra chore? Well, actually, I have an app. It's called the Teaching Self-Government app. There is a free job jar that is on that app that can help you get the right chores for the age and developmental level of your child to use for negative consequences. Well, the app you can use, like you can get a lot of information and training on there, but that job jar part of the app is really meant for people to use that know how to use self-government skills so that they're doing their corrective teachings the proper way and not just throwing out extra chores, okay? So we need to know what our negative consequences are going to be. We don't just throw out negative consequences like, oh, that's an extra chore, or no way, you're not following instructions, extra chore. Those are not good methods for how to do good corrective teachings. And these are teaching moments. That's why they're called corrective teachings. These are times to practice doing things the right way. If you could just push save on that for yourself. These are times, corrections are times to practice doing things the right way. The parent should be calm, not taking things personally. They should also be focused on what skill the child needs to know to be successful next time and doing that training as part of the correction. So what does that full correction look like? They describe what happened, why it wasn't a good idea. Don't do it emotionally, just keep it nice and calm. Describe what should have happened, so what skill steps they should have used and why, and then tell them what negative consequence they earned, which oftentimes is going to be an extra chore. You don't even have to tell them what the chore is yet, just that they've earned an extra chore. Then you say, okay, now we're going to practice doing things the right way. So now you do cued role play practice of doing things the right way, which means you do a practice scenario and then you praise them for doing that. You may even role reverse in that practice session where you pretend to be the child and they are the parent. They may even correct you about something when you don't do it right. Let them practice all the skills that you're using. That puts them in your shoes. It helps them see, oh, this isn't personal. Mom and dad aren't taking this personally. They're just helping me get through a behavior situation. No big deal. Role reversal, really powerful. Praise them every time, no matter what side of the interaction that they are practicing being on at the time. Then they go and they do that negative consequence. They come and check back and you praise them again using a 3-step praise. So when you use the same steps every time, you have a predictable structure. When you just describe instead of react, then you are proactively teaching instead of reacting at your child. When you use the same negative consequence every time, meaning I'm going to use an extra chore, and they get the opportunity to accept the concept that they have earned an extra chore, then they get to develop their character, because Samuel Smiles says that work is the antidote for a sick character. He is a philosopher from the late 1800s, a really incredible thinker, and I believe that that is true. I believe our character is struggling in society nowadays because we don't work enough, or at least do the type of work that actually produces good character development. So then you have the practice times and the praise times, and this should lead it to a very positive corrective moment with you and your child. You should feel closer to your child during and after a correction than you even did before. I know that sounds crazy, but it's absolutely possible, especially if the whole correction starts with calmness. I teach a lot of things about calmness. I have a whole book called The Power of Calm. There's a ton of great information about how your brain works and everything else. But I do have something that you could start with before you get into maybe the full self-government learning, and that is a mini course. It's called the Calm Parenting Toolkit. It has 10 tools for calmness in it. Can help you get on the road to calmness, maybe do some self-analysis about yourself so that you can see how you can improve at your calmness. So in the description below this video, there is a link to the Calm Parenting Toolkit. You can go to teachingselfgovernment.com, and right on the homepage is that Calm Parenting Toolkit. So go there, get the toolkit, start on the road to self-government with this free Calm Parenting Toolkit. I'll see you there.